12-year-old Damon clutched his boarding pass with sweaty palms as he stood in the busy Chicago airport. The sounds around him were overwhelming. People rushing everywhere, announcements echoing from speakers, and the constant hum of conversations in different languages. He had never been on a plane by himself before, and his heart was beating fast. His mom, Lisa, had dropped him off at the security checkpoint just an hour ago. She gave him the biggest hug and reminded him for the 10th time about all the things he needed to remember. Keep his ID in his pocket. Don't talk to strangers. Call her as soon as he landed in Atlanta. She also slipped him $20 for snacks, even though she was already stretching their budget thin. Lisa worked as a nurse at the local hospital. She pulled double shifts whenever she could, sometimes working 16 hours straight just to make ends meet. Damon knew money was always tight. That's why he was so shocked when his mom surprised him with this plane ticket to visit Grandma Rose for the summer. "But Mom, this must have cost so much money," Damon had said when she first showed him the ticket. Lisa smiled and ruffled his hair. "You earned it, baby. Straight A's all year, never getting in trouble and helping me around the house without complaining. Besides, you haven't seen Grandma Rose in 2 years. She's been asking about you every week." What Damon didn't know was that Lisa had been saving every extra penny for 8 months. She skipped buying herself new clothes, ate packed lunches instead of buying food from the hospital cafeteria, and even sold some of her jewelry. But seeing the excitement in her son's eyes made every sacrifice worth it. The boarding pass in Damon's hand read, "First class, seat 2A. He looked at it again to make sure he was reading it right. His mom had really gone all out for this trip. He had watched movies where people sat in first class with all that extra space and fancy food. He never imagined he would get to experience it himself. Damon found a seat near his gate and watched the other travelers. There were business people in expensive suits typing on laptops, families with crying babies and too much luggage, college students with backpacks covered in stickers from different places. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they were going and what they were doing. He pulled out his phone and texted his mom. "Made it to the gate. Plane board's in 30 minutes. Love you," she texted back immediately. "Love you too, sweetheart. Have the best time with Grandma. Take lots of pictures," Damon smiled. His mom always responded to his text right away, even when she was at work. She said it helped her worry less when she knew where he was and that he was okay. The airport was busier than Damon expected. He watched a janitor mopping the floors, working around all the people who barely noticed him. A woman in a pilot uniform walked by, pulling her suitcase behind her. She looked confident and important. Damon wondered what it would be like to fly planes for a living. His thoughts drifted to his dad. Damon barely remembered him. His parents had divorced when he was only 5 years old. His dad had left and never really came back into their lives. Sometimes Damon got birthday cards with money in them, but there was never a return address. His mom didn't talk about his dad much, and when she did, she would get a sad look in her eyes. "Some people choose other things over their family," she once told him when he asked why his dad never visited. "But that's not your fault, Damon. That's his loss." Damon learned not to ask too many questions about his dad. It seemed to make his mom upset, and he didn't want to do that. Lisa worked so hard to take care of him by herself. She went to his school events, helped him with homework, and made sure he felt loved every single day. The gate area started filling up with more passengers. Damon noticed that most of the people looked like business travelers or families who seemed comfortable flying. He felt a little out of place in his regular jeans and sneakers, but his mom had told him to dress comfortably for the long flight. An announcement came over the speakers. "Flight 447 to Atlanta will begin boarding in 15 minutes. We'll start with our first-class passengers and those needing extra assistance." Damon's stomach did a little flip. That was his flight. He double-checked his boarding pass one more time and made sure his backpack was zipped up properly. Inside, he had packed his favorite book, some snacks his mom had given him, and a letter from Grandma Rose that had arrived last week. The letter was full of excitement about his visit. Grandma Rose had written about all the things they would do together. She planned to take him to the zoo, teach him how to make her famous peach cobbler, and maybe even visit the aquarium if he wanted. She also mentioned that she had set up the guest room just for him, with fresh sheets and some new books she thought he might like. Damon loved his grandmother. She always made him feel special when they talked on the phone. She remembered everything about his life, his favorite subjects in school, the names of his friends, and even which superhero movies he liked best. When his mom was working late shifts, Grandma Rose would stay on the phone with him for hours, just talking about everything and nothing. The boarding announcement interrupted his thoughts. We are now ready to begin boarding Flight 447 to Atlanta. First-class passengers and those needing assistance, please approach the gate. Damon took a deep breath and stood up. He slung his backpack over his shoulder and joined the line forming near the gate. There were only about 8 people ahead of him, and they all looked like they traveled frequently. They had expensive-looking carry-on bags and seemed relaxed about the whole process. As he waited in line, Damon tried to calm his nerves. He reminded himself of all the things his mom had taught him about being polite and respectful. Say please and thank you. Look people in the eyes when talking to them. Don't cause any trouble. The line moved forward slowly. Damon watched as each passenger handed their boarding pass to the flight attendant at the gate. She scanned each ticket with a small machine and smiled at everyone. It looked simple enough. When there were only 3 people ahead of him, Damon felt his heart start racing again. This was really happening. He was about to board his first airplane, in first class no less, and fly to Atlanta all by himself. Part of him was excited about the adventure, but another part was nervous about being away from his mom for so long. He thought about calling Lisa one more time, but he knew she was probably starting her shift at the hospital. She had enough to worry about without him being scared about flying. Besides, he was 12 years old now, old enough to handle a simple airplane ride. The person in front of him handed over their boarding pass and walked down the jet bridge. Now it was Damon's turn. He stepped forward with his ticket ready, trying to look more confident than he felt. Damon stepped forward and handed his boarding pass to the flight attendant at the gate. She was a middle-aged woman with short blonde hair pulled back tightly. Her name tag read Beverly. She took his ticket and immediately frowned. "Excuse me, honey," Beverly said, looking down at him with raised eyebrows. "Are you sure you're in the right line? This is for first-class passengers only." Damon felt his cheeks get warm. "Yes, ma'am, that's my ticket. My mom bought it for me." Beverly held the boarding pass up to the light and examined it closely as if she was looking for signs that it was fake. Other passengers in line behind Damon started shifting impatiently. He could feel their eyes on him. "This doesn't seem right," Beverly muttered. She turned to another airline employee standing nearby. "Karen, can you come look at this?" Karen walked over. She was younger than Beverly, maybe in her 20s, with long brown hair. She took the boarding pass and looked at it, then looked at Damon, then back at the ticket. "There must be some kind of mistake," Karen said quietly to Beverly, but loud enough for Damon to hear. Maybe the system glitched when the ticket was purchased. Damon felt his heart sinking. "There's no mistake. My mom saved up money to buy me this ticket. She showed me when she purchased it online." Beverly sighed loudly. "Listen, sweetheart, I'm sure your mother thought she was buying you a first-class ticket, but sometimes these discount websites can be confusing. The important thing is that you still have a seat on the plane. We just need to get you to the right one." "But my seat is 2A, Damon said, pointing to his boarding pass. "That's what it says right here." Karen took the ticket back and studied it again. "The seat number is right, but there might have been a system error. These things happen sometimes. We'll get you sorted out, don't worry." The passengers behind Damon were getting more restless. A businessman in an expensive suit tapped his watch loudly. A woman with a designer handbag sighed and rolled her eyes. "Can we please move this along?" the businessman said. "Some of us have connections to make." Beverly turned back to Damon. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you seated in coach where you belong, and everything will be fine. The flight attendants on the plane will take good care of you." "Where I belong?" Damon repeated, confusion and hurt creeping into his voice. "But my ticket says first class." "Sometimes children get confused about these things," Beverly said to Karen, as if Damon wasn't standing right there. "The parents probably booked coach and told him it was first class to make him feel special." Damon felt tears starting to form in his eyes, but he tried hard not to cry. His mom had always taught him to speak up for himself respectfully. "Ma'am, I'm not confused. My mom specifically told me she bought me a first-class ticket. She was really excited about it." Beverly's expression grew more impatient. "Look, son, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know when there's been a mistake. Your mother probably saw a good deal and didn't realize it was actually a coach seat. It happens all the time. Can you please just scan the ticket?" Damon asked. "If there's really a problem, the computer will tell you." Beverly hesitated for a moment, then held the scanner over Damon's boarding pass. It beeped and information appeared on her computer screen. She frowned at what she saw. "That's odd," she muttered to Karen. "The system is showing first class." But she trailed off and looked at Damon again, as if seeing him for the first time. "So I can board now?" Damon asked hopefully. "Well, not exactly," Beverly said. "Sometimes the computer doesn't update properly when there are last-minute changes. I'm going to need to call my supervisor to sort this out." She picked up a phone and dialed a number. While she waited for someone to answer, more passengers continued to arrive at the gate. The first-class line was getting longer, and people were becoming more agitated about the delay. "This is ridiculous," said a woman carrying an expensive-looking purse. "Why is this taking so long?" "Hi, this is Beverly at Gate B7, she said into the phone. "I have a situation here with a passenger who has what appears to be a first-class ticket, but I think there might be an error." "Yes, I'll hold." While Beverly waited on hold, Damon pulled out his phone and called his mom. It went straight to voicemail, which meant she was probably with a patient at the hospital. "Mom, it's me," he said quietly into the phone. "I'm having some trouble with my ticket. Can you call me back when you get this? I'm still at the gate." Karen noticed him on the phone and walked over. "Who are you calling, honey?" "My mom. She's at work, but I left her a voicemail." "That's probably a good idea," Karen said, but her tone suggested she didn't think his mom would be much help. Beverly hung up the phone and walked back to where Damon was standing. "Okay, I spoke with my supervisor. We're going to go ahead and get you on the plane, but you'll need to sit in coach. We have a nice seat for you in row 23. "But what about seat 2A? Damon asked. "That's what my ticket says." "I'm sorry, but that seat isn't available. There's been a mix-up somewhere in the system. The important thing is that you'll still get to Atlanta to see your family." Damon felt completely lost. Nothing Beverly was saying made sense to him. His mom had shown him the ticket when she printed it out at home. It clearly said first class. She had been so proud and excited to surprise him with it. "Can I please try calling my mom one more time?" he asked. Beverly looked at her watch. "We really need to get this line moving. How about this? You go ahead and board. Get settled in your coach seat, and then you can call your mom from the plane if you need to." The businessman behind them spoke up again. "Look, just put the kid wherever he's supposed to go so the rest of us can board. This is getting out of hand." Several other passengers murmured in agreement. Damon felt like everyone was staring at him, and not in a good way. He was starting to feel embarrassed and confused. Maybe there really had been some kind of mistake. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "My mom saved up for months to buy me this ticket. She told me it was first class." Beverly's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "I'm sure your mom did her best, sweetie. Sometimes these booking websites can be tricky. The important thing is that you're going to see your grandmother, right? That's what really matters." Just then, Damon's phone rang. It was his mom calling back. He answered it quickly. "Mom? Hey, baby, I just got your message." "What's wrong? What's happening with your ticket?" Damon explained the situation while Beverly and Karen listened. He could hear the confusion and then anger in his mother's voice as he told her what the airline employees were saying. "Let me talk to them," Lisa said. Damon handed the phone to Beverly. "My mom wants to talk to you." Beverly took the phone reluctantly. "Hello, this is Beverly with Skyline Airlines. Yes, I understand you purchased the ticket. Ma'am, I'm looking at our system, and there seems to have been some kind of error. No, I'm not suggesting you don't know what you bought." The conversation continued for several minutes. Damon could hear his mother's voice getting louder through the phone. Even though he couldn't make out exactly what she was saying, Beverly's responses became shorter and more defensive. "Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but I'm just following company policy. Yes, your son will still get to Atlanta. No, I cannot guarantee him a first-class seat when there's been a system error." Finally, Beverly handed the phone back to Damon. His mother sounded frustrated and hurt. "Damon, honey, I'm so sorry this is happening. I have the confirmation email right here on my computer. It clearly shows I bought you a first-class ticket. I don't know why they're giving you such a hard time." "What should I do, Mom?" Damon asked. "Just get on the plane, baby. We'll figure this out when you get to Atlanta. I'm going to call the airline's customer service line right now and file a complaint. This is not right." Damon hung up and looked at Beverly and Karen. Both women were watching him with expressions that seemed somewhere between pity and impatience. "Okay," Beverly said. "Let's get you on the plane. Follow Karen, and she'll show you to your seat. Across town in the gleaming headquarters of Skyline Airlines, CEO Michael Thompson was having what he thought would be a routine Tuesday morning. He sat at the head of a polished conference table, surrounded by his executive team as they discussed quarterly profit margins and expansion plans for the upcoming year. "Sir, our customer satisfaction scores are up 3% from last quarter," announced Patricia, the head of customer relations. "The new meal service in first class is getting excellent reviews." Michael nodded approvingly. He had built Skyline Airlines from a small regional carrier into one of the most respected airlines in the country. Every detail mattered to him: customer service, safety records, on-time performance. He monitored it all closely. His assistant, Robert, quietly entered the conference room and whispered something in Michael's ear. Michael frowned and waved him away. "Not now, Robert. We're in the middle of quarterly reviews." But Robert persisted, looking unusually flustered. "Sir, this really can't wait. It's about social media. There's a situation developing that you need to see immediately." Michael had learned to trust Robert's judgment over their 5 years of working together. If Robert said something couldn't wait, it usually couldn't. "Excuse me for just a moment," Michael said to his executive team. He stepped outside the conference room with Robert. "What's so urgent that it can't wait 20 minutes?" Michael asked. Robert held up his tablet. "There are videos going viral on social media about one of our flights. A young passenger was allegedly discriminated against at the gate. The hashtag Skyline discrimination is trending and it's spreading fast." Michael felt his stomach drop. In the airline industry, negative publicity could spread like wildfire and damage a company's reputation permanently. "Show me." Robert pulled up the video on his tablet. It had been recorded by another passenger at Gate B7 about an hour ago. The video showed a young black boy, maybe 12 years old, standing at the gate counter while 2 Skyline employees questioned his boarding pass. The audio wasn't perfect, but Michael could hear enough to understand what was happening. The gate agents were telling the boy that his first-class ticket must be a mistake, that he belonged in coach, that his mother probably didn't understand what she had purchased. Michael watched in growing horror as the boy politely tried to explain that his mother had specifically bought him a first-class ticket. The gate agents dismissed his explanations and treated him as if he were lying or confused. "How many views does this have?" Michael asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "It's been shared over 50,000 times in the last hour," Robert replied. "The comments are not good for us. People are calling for boycotts. Our stock price has already dropped 2% since this morning." Michael continued watching the video. The young boy looked so small and confused standing there while adults talked around him as if he wasn't even present. What made Michael's heart race was something else entirely. The boy looked familiar. Very familiar. "Robert, can you replay that part where the boy gives his name to the gate agent?" Robert scrolled back through the video. The audio was clearer in this section. Michael heard the boy say clearly, "My name is Damon Williams. My mom is Lisa Williams and she bought this ticket for me to visit my grandmother." The tablet nearly slipped from Michael's hands. Williams. Lisa Williams. The name hit him like a physical blow. 12 years ago, Michael had been married to Lisa Williams. They had a son together, a son named Damon. Michael's mind raced back to those painful final months of his marriage. He had been working 18-hour days trying to get Skyline Airlines off the ground. He had investors breathing down his neck, employees depending on him for their livelihoods, and mounting debts that kept him awake at night. Lisa had begged him to find more balance. She wanted him home for dinner, wanted him to attend Damon's school events, wanted him to be a present father and husband. But Michael had convinced himself that if he could just get the airline, be successful, then he would have time for family. "I'm doing this for us," he had told Lisa during one of their many arguments. "Once the company is stable, I'll be able to step back and spend more time at home." "You keep saying that, but it never happens," Lisa had replied, tears in her eyes. "Damon barely knows his father. I feel like a single parent already." The fights had gotten worse. Michael missed Damon's 5th birthday party because of an emergency board meeting. He missed Lisa's nursing school graduation because of a crisis with a major client. He missed countless bedtime stories, school plays, and family dinners. The final straw came when Michael chose to attend a crucial investor meeting instead of Damon's kindergarten graduation. Lisa had given him an ultimatum that morning. "If you don't show up today, if you choose work over your son one more time, we're done. I can't keep pretending that we're a family when you've already made it clear what your priority is. Michael had looked at his calendar, calculated the potential loss if he missed the investor meeting, and made his choice. He went to work. When he came home that evening, Lisa and Damon were gone. Lisa had left a note saying she was staying with her mother and that she needed time to think. Michael figured she just needed a few days to cool off, but days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. Lisa filed for divorce. She moved across town with Damon and changed their last name back to Williams. Michael's attempts to stay involved in his son's life became increasingly strained and infrequent. The custody arrangement allowed him visitation rights, but his work schedule made it difficult to maintain consistency. Gradually, the visits became less frequent. Lisa made it clear that Damon needed stability, not a father who showed up sporadically when work allowed. Eventually, Michael convinced himself that Damon was better off without him. Lisa was doing a great job raising him, and Michael's presence only seemed to create confusion and disappointment. He focused on building his airline empire, telling himself it was for the best. Now, staring at the video of his son being humiliated by his own company's employees, Michael realized the full cost of his choices. This beautiful, polite, well-mannered young boy was his child. A child he barely knew. A child who was being discriminated against by the very company Michael had chosen over his family. "Sir," Robert said quietly. "Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." Michael couldn't speak. He watched the video again, studying his son's face. Damon had grown so much. He looked like a combination of both his parents, Lisa's gentle eyes and Michael's stubborn chin. He carried himself with a quiet dignity that reminded Michael of Lisa's strength. "Sir, we need to respond to this quickly," Robert continued. "The media is starting to pick up the story. We need a public statement, and we probably need to discipline the employees involved." Michael finally found his voice. "That boy in the video. His name is Damon Williams." "Yes, sir. That's what he said. He's my son, Robert. That's my son being treated like that by our employees." Robert's face went pale. In 5 years of working together, he had never heard Michael mention having a child. Robert knew his boss had been married before, but Michael never talked about his personal life. "Your son?" Robert repeated, trying to process this information. "I haven't seen him in years," Michael said quietly. "His mother and we divorced when he was little. I chose this company over my family, and I lost them both. I told myself he was better off without me." Michael looked at the video one more time. His son was trying so hard to be respectful and polite while being treated with suspicion and condescension. Lisa had clearly raised him well despite having to do it alone. "Sir, what do you want me to do?" Robert asked. Michael straightened his shoulders and walked back toward the conference room. "Cancel the rest of the meeting. Get my car ready. I'm going to the airport." "Which airport, sir? We have flights at 3 different airports today." "Whichever airport my son is at." "And Robert?" "Yes, sir. Call ahead to that gate. I want those employees suspended immediately. And I want to know everything about that flight, where it's going, when it lands, everything." Michael paused at the conference room door. His executive team was still inside, waiting for him to return. They had no idea that their CEO's carefully controlled professional world was about to collide with the personal life he had abandoned years ago. "Also, Robert, I want you to pull every piece of information we have about passenger Damon Williams, flight history, complaints, everything. I want to know how we've treated my son every time he's flown with us." As Michael grabbed his coat and headed for the elevator, his mind was spinning with questions. Did Damon even remember him? Would Lisa allow him to approach their son? How could he possibly explain or make up for 12 years of absence? But first he had to get to that airport. He had to face the employees who had discriminated against his child. And somehow he had to figure out how to be the father he should have been all along. Michael's car pulled up to the airport just as Flight 447 was finishing the boarding process. His heart pounded as he rushed through the terminal, his mind racing with everything he wanted to say and everything he was afraid to face. Robert had called ahead, and airport security was waiting to escort Michael directly to Gate B7. As they walked quickly through the corridors, Robert filled him in on what had happened after the video was recorded. The boy was eventually seated in coach, despite having a valid first-class ticket, Robert explained. The gate agents claimed there was a system error, but our IT department confirmed there was no error in the reservation system. Michael felt sick. His own son had been humiliated and then forced to accept treatment he didn't deserve, all while carrying the Thompson family's last name that Michael had given up the right to use. The passengers who recorded the video are also on the same flight. Robert continued. One of them posted an update saying the boy looked really upset but was trying not to cry. Apparently, he kept calling his mother, but she was at work and couldn't answer. Michael thought about Lisa working at the hospital, probably dealing with her own stressful day, unaware that their son was going through this ordeal. She had always been the one to handle everything: school problems, sick days, homework struggles, while Michael focused on business meetings and profit margins. When they reached Gate B7, the flight had already departed. Beverly and Karen were cleaning up their workstation, preparing for the next flight. They looked up as Michael approached with airport security and Robert. Beverly recognized Robert immediately. He had been to the gates many times on company business. But she didn't know who Michael was. Very few frontline employees had ever met the CEO in person. "Good afternoon, Mr. Robert," Beverly said with a professional smile. "How can I help you today?" "This is Michael Thompson, CEO of Skyline Airlines," Robert said formally. "He needs to speak with you about the incident that occurred during the boarding of Flight 447. Beverly's smile faltered. Karen took a step backward, suddenly looking very nervous. Neither of them had expected anyone from corporate to show up about the situation with the young passenger. "Oh," Beverly said, trying to maintain her composure. "You mean the situation with the boy who had the ticket mix-up? We handled that according to company policy." Michael looked at both women for a long moment before speaking. When he finally did, his voice was calm but carried an undercurrent of controlled anger that made both employees shift. Uncomfortably, "I want you to explain to me exactly what company policy allows gate agents to question the validity of a properly issued first-class ticket based on the appearance of the passenger," Beverly glanced at Karen nervously. "Well, sir, sometimes there are system errors or customers purchase tickets from third-party sites that aren't legitimate." "Was there a system error with Damon Williams' ticket?" Michael asked. "We suspected there might be," Karen jumped in. "It seemed unusual for someone like him to have a first-class ticket." The words hung in the air like a confession. Michael felt his jaw clench. "Someone like him?" Beverly realized what Karen had implied and tried to backtrack. "What she means is, sometimes young passengers traveling alone get confused about their seat assignments." The passenger was 12 years old, Michael said. Old enough to read his own boarding pass. Old enough to know the difference between first class and coach. Old enough to understand when adults are treating him unfairly. Robert stepped forward with his tablet. "I have the reservation details right here. The ticket was purchased legitimately through our website with a valid credit card. Full price was paid for a first-class seat. There was no system error, no third-party booking issue, and no confusion about the seat assignment." Both gate agents looked increasingly uncomfortable. Beverly tried one more defense. "Sir, we were just being thorough. Sometimes what?" Michael interrupted. "Sometimes you assume a young black boy couldn't possibly belong in first class. Sometimes you decide that his ticket must be fake without bothering to check your own system properly." The accusation hung heavy in the air. Beverly's face flushed red. "That's not what we were doing. We would have questioned any child traveling alone with a first-class ticket." "Really?" Michael asked. "Show me the last time you questioned a child's first-class ticket. Show me your records of other young passengers you've moved from first class to coach because you suspected their tickets were invalid." Neither employee could answer. They both knew they had never done anything like this before. Michael took a deep breath, trying to control his emotions. "Damon Williams is my son. The child you humiliated, questioned, and ultimately discriminated against is my son." The blood drained from both women's faces. Beverly's mouth fell open in shock. Karen grabbed the edge of the counter to steady herself. Your son?" Beverly whispered. "My son, who I haven't seen in years because I made the mistake of thinking this company was more important than my family. My son, who was traveling alone on an airplane for the first time in his life. My son, whose mother saved for months to surprise him with a first-class ticket as a reward for his good grades and behavior." Michael's voice was getting stronger, more emotional. "My son, who called his mother from this gate, confused and hurt because two adults who were supposed to represent this company's values treated him like he didn't belong." Beverly started to cry. "Mr. Thompson, we had no idea. We never meant—" If we had known he was your son, that's exactly the problem, Michael said sharply. You shouldn't treat a child differently because of who his father is. Every passenger deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their age, their race, or whether they happen to be related to the CEO. Robert had been recording notes on his tablet throughout the conversation. Sir, what would you like me to do about their employment status? Michael looked at both women. Beverly was still crying, and Karen looked like she might be sick. Part of him wanted to fire them immediately, but another part of him recognized something in their faces, the same realization he was having about his own failures. You're both suspended without pay, effective immediately, Michael said. You'll attend mandatory diversity and inclusion training before you're eligible to return to work. And if there's ever another incident like this, your employment with Skyline Airlines will be terminated permanently. Yes, sir, both women said quietly. More importantly, Michael continued, you're going to personally apologize to Damon Williams and his mother. You're going to explain that your actions were wrong, that they violated company policy and basic human decency, and that this will never happen again. Michael turned to Robert. I need you to track Flight 447. Where does it land and when? Atlanta, sir. It lands in about 2 hours. Get me on the next flight to Atlanta and contact our Atlanta office. I want our best customer service representative waiting at the gate when Damon's flight arrives. I want him upgraded to first class on any future flights with us, and I want a formal apology from the company. Yes, sir. And what about the media response? The story is still spreading on social media. Michael thought for a moment. Draft a statement acknowledging that this incident was completely unacceptable. We'll take full responsibility, outline the disciplinary actions we're taking, and commit to comprehensive policy changes to ensure this never happens again. As Robert made notes, Michael pulled out his own phone. His hands were shaking as he scrolled through his contacts to find Lisa's number. They had barely spoken in 5 years, and now he had to call her to explain that their son had been discriminated against by his own company. The phone rang 3 times before Lisa answered. Hello? Lisa, it's Michael. Michael Thompson. There was a long pause. Michael, why are you calling? Is everything okay? No, everything is not okay. Lisa, I need to tell you about what happened to Damon at the airport today. Michael explained everything. The discrimination at the gate, the viral video, his decision to suspend the employees involved. Lisa listened in stunned silence. I can't believe this happened, she said when he finished. I can't believe they treated him that way. He must have been so scared and confused. I know. I'm flying to Atlanta right now. I want to be there when his plane lands. I want to apologize to him in person. Michael, Lisa said carefully, you can't just show up after all these years because something went wrong. Damon doesn't even really remember you. I know, Michael said quietly. I know I have no right to suddenly want to be in his life. But Lisa, seeing that video, seeing our son being treated that way, I realized I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I chose this company over my family, and I've regretted it every day since. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. He's a good kid, Michael, despite everything. Despite growing up without his father, he's turned out to be an amazing person. Smart, kind, respectful. Everything you saw in that video, that's who he is every day. I can see that, Michael said. You've done an incredible job raising him. I know I don't deserve to be part of his life, but I want to try. If he'll let me. This isn't something we can figure out in one phone conversation, Lisa said. But for now, yes, you can meet us at the airport. Damon deserves to know that what happened to him was wrong, and that it won't happen again. Michael paced nervously in the Atlanta airport, checking his watch every few minutes. Flight 447 was scheduled to land in 15 minutes. He had never felt more anxious in his life, not during his first board meeting, not when he was starting the airline, not even during his divorce proceedings. Standing next to him was Jennifer, Skyline's best customer service manager in Atlanta. She held a tablet with Damon's booking information and a formal letter of apology from the company. She also had vouchers for free flights and other compensation, but Michael knew no amount of money could undo the hurt his son had experienced. Lisa had arrived at the airport 30 minutes earlier. Seeing her again after 5 years was like stepping back in time. She still looked exactly the same warm brown eyes, the same determined expression she wore when she was worried about something important. She was wearing scrubs from the hospital, having left work early to be there for Damon. You didn't have to change your clothes, Michael had told her when she arrived. I came straight from work, Lisa replied. I figured Damon needed to see me more than he needed to see me in regular clothes. They had talked briefly while waiting for the flight. The conversation was awkward but civil. Lisa made it clear that she was only there because Damon needed support after what had happened. Any discussion about Michael's role in their son's future would have to wait. He's going to be confused when he sees you, Lisa warned. The last time you two spent any real time together, he was 7 years old. He might not even recognize you. Michael nodded, understanding the weight of what she was saying. He had missed so many years of his son's life. Birthdays, school plays, little league games, homework struggles, first days of school. All of it had happened without him. The arrival board updated to show that Flight 447 had landed. Michael felt his heart rate increase. In just a few minutes, he would see his son for the first time in 5 years. Passengers began emerging from the jet bridge. Michael scanned each face, looking for the boy he had seen in the video. Business travelers hurried past, checking their phones. Families reunited with hugs and excited conversations. Elderly passengers moved slowly, helped by flight attendants. Then Michael saw him. Damon walked out of the jet bridge looking tired and subdued. He was taller than Michael had expected, almost as tall as some adults. He carried a backpack over his shoulder and moved with the quiet dignity Michael had noticed in the video. Damon's eyes immediately found his mother in the waiting area. His face lit up and he walked quickly toward her. Lisa opened her arms and wrapped him in a long hug. How was the flight, baby? Lisa asked, holding him tightly. It was okay, Damon said, but Michael could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Mom, I don't understand what happened at the gate. Those ladies kept saying my ticket was wrong, but you showed me when you bought it. I know, honey. There was no mistake with your ticket. Those employees made an error, and the airline is going to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's when Damon noticed Michael standing nearby. He looked confused, studying Michael's face as if trying to remember where he had seen him before. Michael stepped forward carefully. Hello, Damon. Damon looked back and forth between his parents, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. Mom, who is this? Lisa took a deep breath. Damon, this is your father, Michael Thompson. Recognition slowly dawned on Damon's face, but it was mixed with confusion and wariness. My father, but why? Why is he here? Michael knelt down so he was at eye level with his son. I'm here because I found out about what happened to you today at the gate. The way those employees treated you was completely wrong, and I want to apologize. You want to apologize? Damon asked, his voice small and uncertain. Yes, you see, Damon, I own Skyline Airlines. It's my company. When I saw the video of what happened to you, I realized that my own employees had discriminated against my own son. I was horrified. Damon's eyes widened. You own the airline? I do. And I want you to know that the people who treated you badly today have been suspended from their jobs. They're going to have to go through training to learn how to treat all passengers with respect. And they're going to personally apologize to you and your mother. Jennifer stepped forward with her tablet. Damon, I'm Jennifer from Skyline Airlines. On behalf of our entire company, I want to apologize for how you were treated today. What happened was unacceptable, and we're taking steps to make sure it never happens again. She handed Damon an envelope. This contains a formal apology letter from our company, as well as vouchers for free flights for you and your family. But more importantly, we want you to know that you will always be treated with the respect and dignity that every passenger deserves. Damon took the envelope, but looked overwhelmed by everything that was happening. I still don't understand. If you own the airline, why haven't I seen you before? The question hit Michael like a physical blow. Out of the mouths of babes came the most difficult question he would ever have to answer. That's a very good question, Damon. The truth is, I made some very bad choices when you were little. I thought building this company was the most important thing in the world. I worked all the time and didn't spend enough time with you and your mom. Eventually, your mom realized that you deserved better than a father who was never around. So you chose the airplane company over us? Damon asked with the brutal honesty that only children possess. Michael felt tears forming in his eyes. Yes, I did. And it was the biggest mistake I've ever made. I told myself that I was working so hard for our family, but really I was just being selfish. I was so focused on building something big and important that I forgot about the most important things I already had. You and your mother. Lisa put her hand on Damon's shoulder. Your father and I made the decision, together, that it would be better for you to have stability with me, rather than confusion with someone who couldn't be there, consistently. But I've thought about you every day since then, Michael continued. I've wondered how you were doing in school, whether you liked sports, what your favorite books were. I was just too ashamed of my choices to try to come back into your life. Damon was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he had heard. Finally, he looked up at Michael. Are you going to disappear again? The question was so direct and honest that Michael felt his heart break. I don't want to, Damon. More than anything, I want to be part of your life. But that's not just my decision to make. It's your decision and your mother's decision too. What would being part of my life look like? Damon asked. Michael glanced at Lisa, who nodded encouragingly. Well, maybe we could start slowly. Maybe I could call you sometimes, or we could have dinner once in a while. Maybe I could come to some of your school events if you wanted me to. Would you come to my basketball games? I'm starting middle school basketball in the fall. If you want me to, I would love to come to your basketball games. Damon thought about this. And you would remember to come? You wouldn't forget because of work? Michael understood the weight of this question. His son was asking for a promise, and Michael knew he would only get one chance to prove himself worthy of that trust. Damon, I can't promise that I'll never have to deal with work problems, but I can promise that you will always be more important than any work problem. If you have a game or a school play, or if you just want to hang out, that will always come first. What about the people at your company who were mean to me? They're going to be trained to do better. And I'm going to make new rules for the whole company about how we treat passengers. Every person who works for Skyline Airlines is going to learn that we judge people by their character, not by what they look like or how old they are. Lisa had been watching this conversation with careful attention. She could see that Damon was cautiously interested in getting to know his father, but she also knew her son well enough to recognize when he was feeling overwhelmed. Why don't we start with something simple? Lisa suggested. Michael, you could drive us to Grandma Rose's house. Damon can tell you about school on the way, and you can tell him about what you're going to do to fix the problems at your company. Michael felt a surge of gratitude toward Lisa. She was giving him a chance. Not a big chance, but a real one. I would love that, Michael said. Damon, would that be okay with you? Damon looked at his mother, who gave him an encouraging nod. Okay, he said, but I have a lot of questions. Michael smiled, his first genuine smile in what felt like years. I have a lot of answers. And Damon? Yeah? I want you to know that even though I wasn't there for most of your life so far, I'm incredibly proud of the person you've become. The way you handled yourself today, the way you were respectful even when people weren't being respectful to you, that shows what kind of character you have. Your mother raised an amazing son. As they walked toward the parking garage together, not quite a family yet, but maybe the beginning of one, Michael realized that this was the most important business meeting of his life. Everything he had worked for, all the success he had achieved, meant nothing if he couldn't earn back the trust of his 12-year-old son. But for the first time in years, Michael felt hopeful. He had been given a second chance, and this time he wasn't going to waste it.